Hello guys. So I've been thinking quite a while about making a video about some of the loose ends we've had in some of the expansions that we've had over the past few years. And one of the things that I would really like to discuss is Draenor at first, because they have so many loose ends in there and there's so many interesting areas that we just never really got to explore. So I think we should just jump into it, and this will be 5 things, I think. So the first thing will be the Gorian Empire, which is primarily by the Heimal orcs, or ogres rather. And they have quite an interesting background, they have quite unique structures, and they have quite a unique society. They're quite interesting. I'm not gonna go too much into many of the details, but I think most people who've been farming the raids and, you know, played back then would really maybe even like to play as an ogre, because they are so both dumb and smart at the same time. The ogres are notoriously strong mages in, you know, the alternate universe in Draenor, but they also, some of them are also not quite as smart. I don't think there's any relationship between having one or two heads. Like, it doesn't determine if you're smart or not, but historically speaking, there is quite a lot of mages who have 2 heads rather than 1. But, you know, it doesn't mean everything. They do have the Emperor Magog, or whatever his name is. I'm sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. But he is... he's quite the, you know, he's the Imperator, basically, the Grand Imperator. And he is using some heavy arcane magic, which means that they are not as weak as some people think. We also do have some quite interesting ogres, like the Magic Breakers, which is a unique type of ogres that are nullifying or even like completely immune to certain magics. We have this one raid boss who has that property, and also some of the mobs in that area. Yeah. And we also have stuff like the Cho'Gall. Obviously we are fighting him when we are doing the last boss fight, and we are slaying him. He is warning us about what is to come, but we don't really know what it is that he's warning about. Obviously it's made 10 plus years ago, so it's probably not something related to Midnight that is coming up soon, but it's still quite interesting. It would be funny if we at some point could have some playable races like ogres, especially since it would be interesting to maybe have some racials linked to the Magic Breaker. I think a lot of people have been asking about this for a long time, me included. I think it's one of the more interesting races in World of Warcraft, and I think it's one of these races that have always kind of existed. Some people think they're too large, some people think they don't really fit into the Horde or the Alliance, and I think I would disagree, because I think you've historically seen a few ogres helping out the Horde, and you've also seen like ogres since the vanilla WoW, so I think it's a missed opportunity that they were never implemented. We do have a lot of races, but with the allied race system in place, it should not be a problem. Second topic, Shattrath City. It's also one of these loose ends that we never really got to see. We never really went in there. Some people claim that it was cut content and it was supposed to be a raid tier and so on. Obviously I can't confirm nor deny that. But it does have some interesting lore, like they were getting attacked by the Iron Horde. Don't really have too much to say about that. We thwarted them in their attempt to take over Shattrath City. Many Draenei obviously evacuated from this, but at the end of the day, the gates are still closed. Then afterwards, after the attack of the Iron Horde, which can be a little bit confusing in game because everything is kind of happening at the same time. Then they got invaded by the Legion in some areas, and some, and this was led by Sokrathar, which you've probably also seen in the raid, and also if you've been questing in Warlords of Draenor, you've probably seen Sokrathar. He's actually one of the Exarchs. Sokrathar being Exarch, I'm trying to pronounce this, Exarch Otha. And yeah, I mean, he starts out as a Exarch, and then he becomes a part of the Burning Legion. The middle picture obviously being him in Outland in Netherstorm next to an adamantine vein, and the one on the far right is obviously inside the raid itself in Alternate Draenor. But yeah, he's a Eredar, and he is partial demon, obviously, since he made a pact with the Burning Legion and Sargeras. But we do slay him in Hellfire Citadel, and not in the Twisting Nether. And since he is partial, if not more demon than humanoid at this point, it's very likely that he isn't permanently dead. This did happen before we took on Sargeras, so who knows? Yeah. And yeah, we never really get to see what happens afterwards, because we thwarted both attacks on it, and it's still not available to us. In our reality in Outland, obviously Adel the Naru comes into the picture and tries to guide and help the remaining citizens of Shattrath City to guide them to defeating the Burning Legion. But again, we never really kind of know what's gonna happen in the alternate reality. The only thing that we do know about the alternate reality is that at one point the Army of the Light drives out all the orcs of Draenor, and that's why the Magaok is joining us eventually in BFA. Which happens, BFA is like, what, 1 or 2 expansions after. The next one is the Zangar Sea, which is my favorite, I think. I would say is one of the things that is never quite explained at all. There is not too much to say about the Zangar Sea itself, but there is a lot of things. I mean, there is some things to say about it, but there's no explanation from Blizzard themselves, is what I'm trying to say. If we take a look under the water, anywhere on Draenor, you can see these huge mushrooms, and they have presence everywhere. I think personally, if I knew that there were huge mushrooms under the sea, taking up so much space, I would be a little bit concerned about what their point is and what they're doing, and what kind of influence does it have on the world and the water and everything. So that's quite interesting. We also see that the mushroom themselves start to take over the land where it's possible. So it's like adapting and trying to challenge. You can also see, if you're inside the raid, that the Zangar and the bracken, the mushrooms, like everything, the plants, they are not friendly with the Iron Horde or anyone. Like they're just their own force. They don't care about anything but expanding, and they've had plenty of room to expand underwater. So yeah, I think it's actually very interesting to see. Obviously, we thwart Brakenspore, and it's probably one of the larger generals probably in the underwater, in the sea, and just generally maybe one of the stronger players in the Zangar forces. But we don't really know why and how, why they're doing it or how they're doing it. One of the things that were mentioned was some concept art at some point where there was supposed to be a fungal whale. I don't really remember where this is from. I found it online, but I'm pretty sure I saw this at like the BlizzCon reveal, if I'm not mistaken, back when it was current. But yeah, this creature was obviously never invented. You see tentacles sprouting out of it. You see these spores. You see the mouth is all malformed. But it would be cool to actually understand where they're coming from. If we go to and think about Zangar Marsh in the actual Outland, that's our reality. They do have these fungal giants helping out here and there. The Nagas. I don't know if it's because they were domesticated or if they have some kind of partnership or whatever. But it's, again, quite interesting to see that they're never really they are interesting creatures and they were never really expanded upon. One of the last places you can see it is obviously on alternate Draenor, where you do the legendary quests with your legendary ring, which is not available anymore, but you had to collect stuff for Khadgar here and in the raids. But yeah, this was called Sagara. It's also a small enclave of mushrooms in the middle of Talador, with only one small waterway out to the water in between the mountains. So it is, again, they do seem to be wanting to migrate onto the land. And that's, again, interesting because we still don't really know what the point is. I mean, if you think about it biologically, we do have mushrooms that just grows and grows and grows, especially from rot and mold. But yeah. We do have in the actual Outland, we have the Sporgar and the Sporlings, which seem to come from these mushrooms. We don't have... It's not super rich on the lore there, but the Sporlings are also quite an interesting race. They are obviously mostly spore, and they seem to be coming from these spore pots. There were, next to Sporgar, there's something called the spawning grounds, I think, and I think that's where they're, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's where the Sporlings are coming from. Obviously there's many different Sporlings, and there's a lot of potential for them to, you know, be a part and have unique culture, unique abilities. They could become a part of, like, it could be someone that could aid us. The Sporlings are always friendly and wary of adventures. They are not aggressive or anything like that. They're like anti-aggressive, if you could say so. Very, you know, chill people if you read the lore on them. So yeah, I think it's very curious that the actual humanoids of these spores are very peaceful, while the spores themselves seem invasive, almost. Would be nice maybe to have them as a playable race, you know, I would not say no to that, but it's something else. Then we have the Dragonmaw and the Burning Blade clans, also plot points that were never really explored super well in the Warlords of Draenor. I'm gonna start with the Dragonmaw clan. The Dragonmaw clan obviously is only really present in the Upper Blackrock Spire, and the Upper Blackrock Spire is where they were keeping the dragons. Historically, Upper Blackrock Spire has always been about dragons, but Warlord Zayla wanted to destroy Stormwind with some weapon of some sort, but obviously we stopped her in time and she was killed. And we never really see anything else from the Dragonmaw clan. I don't even think that I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think that we see them at all in Warlords of Draenor. At all. They do have some distinct features. I mean, they have the grey skin, which you can already get as a Macaorg, but not all of them have completely grey skin. Some of them have slightly lighter and darker brownish gray skin, which is cool. But the thing that I think you should pay the most attention to is their eyes. And they are distinct yellow that they don't have any pupils or anything like that. And you can probably see that in the pictures here. Some people would argue that the ones that you can get from the character screen, that's them, right? I don't think so. Whenever I see them, I see more red tint in them than actual yellow. And that reminds me more of Blackhand, to be honest. So it would be nice if Blizzard could maybe add an option to have Dragonmaw customizations in the future. It should not be a insanely hard thing to do. It's personally my favorite orcs. Then we have the Burning Blade clan. Most of them are obviously warriors. They have a very unique style compared to the Japanese samurai. And I think a lot of warriors are super interested in having more Japanese kind of swords. I mean, I think we can all agree that people who play World of Warcraft are geeks. And there's a lot of geeks who also like anime and samurai swords. So I would say that would be a win-win. The only real thing that we have about them in Draenor is that we have this one exiled Burning Blade warrior, which is also in Outland in the actual reality, which is called Lantressor of the Blade. And yeah, we do help him, and we do mess around, but we never really hear anything from him at all. Like, he's just in our garrison chilling. And it would be nice if at some point in the future, either through trading posts, the trading post, or maybe some side event, or I don't know, something. It would be nice to get some more toys for our warriors and paladins and death knights, some samurai swords, because they are in fact really cool, and I think most people would agree that it would be super nice to have. I mean, we do have some things that was in the trading post, the beads that, the Samuro on the right from Heroes of the Storm has, like, you are able to get those, but the shoes, the Japanese style, wooden armor on top of your pants and stuff, like, we don't have that. We don't have that many flags that you can have on the back, only like pendants and stuff from PvP, but not everyone plays PvP, right? So I think a lot of people would be happy to have more of this style, especially the warriors. The only time that these Dragonmaw and the Burning Blade clan is really mentioned is during the Koshak, the heritage quest that gives the Orc heritage armor. There you see Lantreos, Lantressor, and you see some Dragonmaw people being there, hinting that maybe someday they could, resolve their issues with each other, which would be nice. So hopefully Blizzard someday would add it. You can see them right here. Like, there's a Dragonmaw here, a Dragonmaw here, and then there should be some Burning Blade. I don't really see it. I don't remember where he was, but it would be nice to have some more. Oh, there he is. Last plot point, the Arakkoa. I think it's a little bit more niche, but a lot of people seem to like it, especially some of the people who've been farming for the Anzu mount for years. That I think, again, Blizzard also dropped the ball on what's happening with them. I mean, obviously they can't continue the lore all the time on what's going on, but it was just kind of dropped in the middle of everything. We do help them out in the Skyreach, which is, was quite a big deal. It was a dungeon and everything. And then after helping them out with the Skyreach, their primal god, Anzu, is like, you need to forge your own path from now on. Then afterwards, we see that We don't really hear much about them besides one particular group which goes on to help Gul'dan in the Hellfire Citadel. And yeah, we defeat him as well. But he... after that, we never really hear about the remaining Arakkoa outcasts and such, and the, you know, so it would be nice to get some elaboration on what's going on with them, and maybe even get them like as an allied race or something. If you look on the left side, they could be. I mean, obviously, they remind a little bit about Evoker when you look at them, like the Draxier, but I don't think that would be something that Blizzard would hold back from. Like it should be possible to put armor on them. We do have they do also, a lot of them wear these glaives that you see. What are they called? Demon hunters are wearing. Obviously they're not demon hunters, but it is technically possible for them to have armor. The right pictures of Terok when you are blasting these panthers. I don't remember what they're called. But you're supposed to kill like 3 leaders or something. And then then eventually you fail. But it's also mentioned by, I think, I don't remember the dwarf's name, but there's a dwarf that says that they're as smart as any gnome, and gnomes are quite smart, so they're not a dumb race per se, not like the ogres, but again, ogres are also insanely smart. And that's kind of the last point that I have. I don't really, I think that was 5. It was the ogres, it was the Zangar, it was Shattrath, it was the Burning Blade, and it was the Arakkoa, Burning Blade / Dragonmaw. And it would be really nice if they could expand on these. I guess this is kind of my little personal wish list, but let me know what you think.